Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are finally back on track with making our armor, and today we're going to feature a brand new manufacturer, at least for the channel, and it is by Dragon. Dragon is one of my favorite manufacturers to build tanks. Comes with a lot of detail. It's engineered for modeling enjoyment, plastic parts with enhanced detail, unprecedented value, and ready for immediate assembly. So what can possibly go wrong? I'm just kidding. Dragon is a very good manufacturer of model kits. They are personally one of my favorites. I do have a couple of Dragon kits that I filmed before the channel, and they both came out very, very well, and I liked it. But as you can see here, this is very, very good detail that you have on this, and this specific kit is a smart kit. So typically, kind of like meme with Dragon kits is that they have hundreds and hundreds of parts, a lot of them necessarily unused. Not only that, but it allows for a lot of different customization when it comes to your tanks and a lot of different variants. So one kit could typically have 5 or 6 different variations with different armor plates, different attachments, accessories, etc. So it becomes a lot in the kit. With these smart kits, they cut down the part count and they pretty much just give you exactly what you need, and it comes out to a build that you could pretty much build in a weekend. So all modelers love that, I love that, and let's get into some of the steps of building this IJA Type 97 Chiha, which was a Japanese World War II tank. Japan, not really known for their armor, but they did make some very effective tanks in the defense of Iwo Jima, and as well as their island hopping campaign. So we're going to take our Tamiya sharp side cutters here, and the only real gripe that I have with a Dragon kit, and it's not really a gripe, but it's something you don't see on user-friendly kits like Tamiya, is that they have a lot of these standoffs. You probably saw them in the last frame, and those standoffs are pretty much to protect the parts from warping. Warped plastic is a big issue when it comes to model tanks, because you have a warped piece of plastic and now all of a sudden it doesn't really fit. So Dragon is very, very precise in how they mold their plastic, and they try to avoid gaps as much as often. So those standoffs, unfortunately, you will need to cut off as well, adding to a little bit of the build time, but not enough to really draw you away from the kit. The cleanup is very easy after you take off those standoffs, and it really is ready for assembly. So good on them to put that on the back of the box. So we showed some of the wheel assembly, and now we're moving on to some of the suspension assembly. The suspension in this kit is non-workable, so keep that in mind if you were trying to use this kit for a diorama. However, you do have some play in where you can adjust where the suspension is sitting, but not a lot of it. No springs or fancy technology on the inside of the hull where it's unlimited. You pretty much see what you get, and that's about that. These suspension arms, very easy to put together, very crisp detail. I mean, you could just see for yourselves the amount of detail that you have on the lower hull, which is going to be covered up by road wheels and tracks and mud, dirt, etc. And you could just see how much detail they really put into this kit. I mean, check out that bottom. You almost want to show the bottom of that tank in some type of diorama or modeling base, because it does look so well. Just be careful when you are assembling this lower hull, because the parts are very specific to where you need to put them. For instance, that front suspension that you see up there is not the same as the middle 2 suspension arms, and they have to be facing a certain direction, and then it's on both sides. So just be mindful if you are going to build this kit, picking up those suspension arms. And here we are just putting on the front faceplate. of the tank. I'm sorry, this is the rear faceplate of the tank. Again, very detailed. You won't get any like weird super detailed parts and then some parts where they really skipped out on detail. Now the tank is very well detailed. Here we're just finishing up some of the suspension with these springs and looks like control arms. I did actually end up breaking, I believe, 2 of these. If you could see where like those pistons are situated, it's only 2 small contact points, and this part is under tension because it does go attached to the suspension arm in this little cutout that they have. Just be careful with how you place them. I broke 2 of them, but it's not that big of a deal. You just pretty much slap some Tamiya glue back on there and you're good to go with no noticeable damages to the tank. And now we're putting on the front faceplate. Front faceplate, not a whole lot of detail, however you do get 2 tow hooks on each side as well as a tow hook in the middle. Other than that, you don't really need much from your faceplate. There was no extra armor or spare tracks. You'll notice that this tank does not have any spare track placement for it. And if I read it correctly, it was because when they built these Japanese tanks, they were small in size. So this is a medium-sized tank, and they needed to be mobile, and they needed to traverse rough terrain and be quick and able to react quickly. They also needed to be able to be loaded on ships, so that way they can be shipped off to islands for their island hopping campaign. So they really cut down on weight, so you'll see when it comes to like equipment and stuff like that, you won't really see a lot of that detail that you see on maybe some American World War II tanks, as like a Sherman with a whole bunch of spare tracks and spare wheels, or German tanks where you have a whole bunch of tools, etc. This I want to call it a upper hull end plate. Was brilliantly crafted by Dragon. Literally, you just placed it in and you slid it into position, and then you apply some glue, and you have almost 0 gap. There is a small seam, obviously you get that when you do plastic modeling, but you add some Tamiya thin cement and it seals it up quite nice and just fit truly like a glove. Really great stuff. There was some Photoetch for the idler wheel there. However, those parts were a lot more annoying than what it seems. The plastic standoff that actually has the idler wheel attached to it did have a cutout for the Photoetch. However, it was a little bit thicker than the hole allowed. So as I went to go apply the axle onto the back end of the Photoetch popped off, and I needed to reapply it a couple of times. So that was quite a little bit of a hassle, but again, nothing that really made or broke this kit. So that was very good. The gun that you see here in this front plate was assembled off screen because there were a whole bunch of small parts. One thing that's very interesting about Dragon is I feel like they give a lot of detail to machine guns and main guns, and they give you some decent interior, but not enough to show off the interior. There was one Dragon kit that I built where it had a really awesome gun assembly, and I kind of left the whole top part unglued so that way I could show it. And I don't know, I feel like if Dragon's gonna go this far with creating such intricate detail for guns, etc., they should just make a full interior kit, and I think it would be absolutely amazing with this level of detail. It would be really great. So here we're just going to show you the exhaust pipes. Now these exhaust pipes, they do get covered by a Photoetch shroud that you will see later on in the video, but it is still worth taking care in building this, because well, the shroud is perforated, so you can see through the shroud, and it adds a lot of depth when you do go to color it. We are going to rust these out as we typically do with our exhausts, but I still took care to clean up these parts fairly well because it is a focal point for the tank. I always feel like exhausts for tanks are focal points. It's something different. It's typically, unless you're building a complete rust bucket, it's typically the only part that's truly rusted out and painted differently than the rest of the tank because of the heat exposure, as well as moisture that builds up, etc. So yes, just take care building these. Also be careful with the placement of these exhaust pipes right here, like the actual exhaust from the exhaust pipe, because they go in opposite directions and it is very easy to kind of put them facing the same direction or upside down. Putting on some of these front fenders was very easy. The parts do come just one. They do have some photo etch at the bottom, which is very tasteful, but again, it is going to be covered up with mud and tracks and wheels. So yeah, this is pretty much what we're working out with. As you can see, a little bit more photo etch attached. Photo etch I apply off camera, typically because I feel like with photo etch, it's kind of like a one-way ticket. You have to do it the right way the first time. I've had photo etch in the past where I've bent and then rebent and then it's broke, and I don't really know how to solder, so I haven't been able to repair those parts. And these parts are crucial to the tank. They actually are not optional. There is a plastic option, but the plastic is obviously a lot thicker than the brass photo etch that they give you here. So applied off camera to be very careful. Applied more of the tools, put the actual exhaust on without the exhaust shrouds. That whole back plate is very, very nice. So this is pretty much what we have at this point, and it's shaping up to be a very, very highly detailed model that we build relatively quickly. The gun, again, the main gun and the other machine gun were assembled off camera. As you can see, I just look at that level of detail that you have in there. You have valves and knobs, and it's a shame because unless you take off the whole turret, you really won't see this detail ever again. There's no like large window ports. The commander's cupola didn't have an option to leave, you know, the hatches open, so that detail is kind of going to get hidden, and that's a little unfortunate. Here we are attaching the commander's cupola onto the turret. Not that big of a gun on this Type 97 Chiha, so from my understanding, it was really used as defensive statures to pick off enemy infantry in, you know, the woods and beaches and stuff like that. So it almost served as a mobile gun, not really that much of an anti-tank weapon, especially against the American Sherman tank, which, you know, had really good armor, really good penetrating gun. So yeah, this little bracket or brace that we have up top is pretty cool. It's something that did draw me to wanting to build this tank because it's something different. So guys, this is pretty much what we have at the moment, and I say at the moment because we are going to try to add some more detail to this already highly detailed tank. Seeing that it does have a lack of tools, a lack of accessories, I kind of wanted to add some extra stuff onto it. So yeah, that's a good shot at the exhaust shrouds, which are, I think, came out really, really well. Those exhaust shrouds, they come flat, but pretty much you just take a paintbrush and you gently roll it until you get the desired shape. If you're asking about the tracks, I also filmed the tracks off camera because you did need to put these in a jig to get the sag correct. So here is going to be our first modification. We're going to drill a hole and we're going to make our own custom. They're not going to be tow hooks, but they are going to be hooks. And we're going to take 0.2 millimeter copper wire and we're going to kind of make like rigging. So The way I imagine this tank is that the crew kind of wanted a place to hang like extra stuff or maybe some foliage, and they didn't really have a place to do so, so they custom made their own hooks and made this rig where you can put foliage and equipment and other stuff on the tank to make the tank just look a little bit more lived in. As you can tell, we also added some value gear packs. We added one tarp on the right front there, and we added a camo netting on the left front there. We also did this little trick with the rigging on both sides. Going back in time now, because you could see that there is no rigging on the side, but this is just us applying the value gear onto the tank. So not that I wanted this tank to really be in combat, but I just wanted to show that it was kind of lived in and on the move. But guys, that's pretty much all I got for you today. Really thank you for swinging by, and thank you for just hanging out and, you know, keeping up with the channel, as I haven't really been posting that much. But now that we're back on track, we're going to be good to go. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll see you guys next week.